Post, Fox News, and a handful of others.
Maria, as big a threat as the CCP is, some call it the deep state. There's nothing deep about it. It is right in your face. The second that Rudy Giuliani announced that he was going to be Donald Trump's lawyer in the first impeachment, the Department of Justice came up with some false reason to be able to spy on him. So think about that. We have a Department of Justice that's hacking into getting a fake warrant or using, false pretenses to get a real warrant on the President of the United States of America's attorney. Okay.
But let me just say, why do they do it? Because they got away with it before. Okay, we've spent 4 years talking about the Russia collusion lie. It was a complete lie. One political campaign trying to take down another political campaign by coming up with some story of Russia collusion. The FBI pursued it. They knew it wasn't true, but they still spied on Carter Page. They spied on other Trump officials, and they got away with it. So, of course, they're just going to continue to do it again, and they did. No attorney-client privilege for anybody that comes up against them. No freedom of press in this country. The fact that they're spying on Post reporters, and these meetings all started in August. Okay, once Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon and their entire crew started verifying the various details, and as soon as they went to Miranda Devine, they started, and Emma Jo Morris, they started reading all of the details of everything going on there so they could get ahead of the story, and they were specifically telling all of these social media companies that there was going to be a story about Hunter Biden, and be careful because we think it's most likely Russian disinformation, full well knowing everything is true. They were in possession of the laptop since December of 2019. What does Bill Barr know about this? What does Chris Wray know about this? This takes the Russian hoax up to another level. Yeah. Here's my prediction. There will be a massive redoing of the FBI, a dismantling of the FBI when the Republicans get in control. Christopher Wray, he's out, I'm sure of it, in the next year. In the year ahead, watch him resign, because I think there are certain things that he was actually against, like the Trump raid. We're going to talk more about that coming up. We are just getting started. And brain misfunction is not funny, Mike. So I don't know. This, for me, I was shocked at making this a joke.
Yeah, well, look, I find Michael Chi and Colin Jost, they can be one of the bright spots. I mean, obviously, since Trump won in 2016, the show has gone into the dumpster fire. I'm surprised Alec Baldwin wasn't on there yelling again this week about God only knows. But look, it reminds you that pre-Trump, SNL would make disgusting jokes about every single politician and not just be a one-sided political activist against Trump and the Republicans. So although this may not have been the best of taste, that Rudy Giuliani had a great line after 9/11 when he was helping host. When Lorne Michaels asked him, can we go back to being funny? And Rudy nailed it and said, why start now? So
that was funny. That was funny.
It's just unfortunate that such a great franchise has gone so far down.
I know. Okay, here's a question for you guys, okay? Is Sam...
Yeah, look, I think Herschel Walker is emblematic of what we saw in this last midterm cycle, that in some of these closer races where there's a little bit of drama and you haven't had the establishment buy in and throw their full weight behind the candidate, that Republicans simply can't win elections with 8 hours of game day turnout when the Democrats have been working on a month-long get out the vote, early vote. So I think this full midterm cycle is just a full-on failure in terms of tactics from the Republicans in trying to get their vote out over the course of a month. I mean, if you look at what happened in Maricopa County on the day of election, people don't have 3 hours to wait in line to vote.
Right.
So if you want to turn all your voters out in all the Republican districts on one day versus the Democrats who've been doing it over the course of a few weeks here and in the midterms over a month, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to win. And I just have to push back on Herschel Walker as a bad candidate. He's one of the single most popular people in the history of the state of Georgia. Everyone has their flaws. If they can't find a way to push a guy like this over the finish line. You need to figure out how you're voting, because that has fundamentally changed. And the Republicans basically gave up a large Senate majority, governorships in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and in looks like Arizona, because of the way that they've attacked voting and cycles, and they're going to need a big change going forward if they expect to be competitive in any close race.
But rates are higher this morning, up about 2.5 points on the 10-year, but it's still at 3.5%, Mike. Higher rates have been squeezing tech stocks, though, sending the NASDAQ down 27% year to date. Now the Dow is showing better performance, down only about 5% year to date. The Journal writes about this morning, that the Dow has been shining while tech has been under pressure. Apple, for example, experiencing production delays in new iPhones in China, getting criticized for its handling of the airdrop feature in the face of the protests. The company reportedly now planning to move some production out of China. We know that this doesn't happen overnight, but the conversation is beginning, apparently. Mike, your thoughts on investing in industrials versus big tech?
So when interest rates go higher and inflation exists, which it really hasn't very much over the course of the last decade, you don't need to pay for exorbitant multiples. So if there's 1% inflation and 0% growth, and there's companies out there whose revenue is growing at 100 or 200% a year, and their profits are growing at 300% or 500%, but just sort of astronomical growth, you're willing to pay much higher than a market multiple for that company. Well, once inflation skyrockets and short-term interest rates look like they're on their way to 4.5% or even 5%, you no longer need to pay 200 times earnings or 50 times revenue for this tech unicorn. You probably still pay an above market multiple, but not 5 times a market multiple or 10 times a market multiple for that. And so with that multiple compression, a lot of these tech stocks have come screaming down, which is why you've seen that performance in the NASDAQ. As far as Apple's concerned, their ability to stick through this, and that the people's addiction to the iPhone, how well that company is run, it just kind of a safe place for a lot of people to put their money. It's almost an index in itself. That has held that stock stick in there. And for them to start further diversifying their supply chain out of China after you've seen all the drama over the course of the last month makes a tremendous amount of sense. Moving supply chains out of China, something 5-7 years ago, previously thought unthinkable, is now becoming the norm. There's a tremendous amount of political risk. China, obviously, when you're relying on a communist country for your supply chain, it's probably not the smartest long-term business planning, but still substantial business there for Apple, still a lot of production there. So hopefully we see more and more out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. They just can't find the workers. They're investing in their military. We're not.
Maria, if you remember, in the spring and summer of 2021, the Biden administrations on multiple occasions said this vaccine would never be mandated for anyone. Fast forward to the fall after the debacle in Afghanistan, which is one of, if not the greatest, foreign policy military mishap in the history of our United States. 3 or 4 days after that, all of a sudden, the vaccine mandates rolled out. Not only to change the national conversation from the irreparable harm that the Biden administration caused our country, but to also serve as an ideological test. If you're willing to question the vaccine, if you're willing to question authority, do we need you involved in the government? Do we need you involved in the military? Okay, it's to flush these people out, and as a result, you have some of the most decorated, some of the most highly trained special operations warriors being forced out of the military. These are the most lethal and well-trained warriors in the world, where the United States government has spent tens of millions of dollars training these people to put their lives on the line, only to push them out because they may question the ideological pushing from this administration. So it's just one kind of ridiculous mishap after another. It's good to see this finally coming to an end.
Yeah, we've got much more ahead on this morning and elsewhere. Welcome back. Time for the big buzz of the morning. Pantone Color Institute announcing its 2023 Color of the Year. And it is, wait for it, Viva Magenta. Pantone Institute is the consulting service that's christened an IT color every year. For more than 2 decades, the color of the year is based off of the incoming trends in entertainment, travel, fashion, technology, and economic conditions. This year's color was chosen because it is powerful and empowering, saying that it promotes joy and optimistic celebration. Magenta, Dagan, you like it?
Yeah, I like hot pink. That's what I call magenta. I actually am a huge fan of Pantone. So they essentially categorize every imaginable color under the sun. So if you are in graphics, fashion, auto manufacturing, anything to do with design, Pantone, categorizes the colors you use. I have this, check it out. They used to make, they don't sell them anymore. They used to sell these little credit card holders for $6. I keep all my credit cards in my little Pantone. This is 2035. Red, 2035. It was like the best gift I ever got. And you can't buy them anymore.
That's cool. Mike, what do you think?
I'm colorblind, so.
Is that
there
true?
you go. Yes.
Okay.
That's sad.
On that note, have a great day, everybody. Dagan